Hi, my name is Raj Subramaier, and today we're going to talk about 4 leadership traits that can make anyone a great leader. So, before we get into the strategies, I want to start with a story. So, I got into leadership roles way back in 2013, and I still remember my first leadership experience. So, I was working for this travel booking company, and I was chosen to lead the entire mobile testing division, and I wanted to be the best leader people can have. So I put in so much effort, and I made sure I was invited to every meeting. I was included in every email chain. I talked to every person, and within 2 months of doing this whole thing, I slowly started realizing that I wasn't finding time to do the main task which I was supposed to do. And then I was missing deadlines. And I was in a lot of stress. And one day when I got in my elevator, I was working on the 8th floor of the building, and then my direct report was in the elevator as well. And then once we reached the ground floor, when I got out of the elevator, he told me, "Hey Raj, you seem really stressed. Are you doing okay?" Then I said, "No, I am not. I am stressed." And then he said, if it's okay with you, could I offer you some feedback?" I said yes. And that moment changed my life, because he was telling me that I was micromanaging the team. I was trying to get invited for everything, and then I was trying to manage every minute details in the project, right? And he was saying that it was stressing other people out. And that's when I realized, man, I've been a micromanager, and thinking that I'll be the perfect leader, I was actually micromanaging people. And I really wanted to change this behavior about myself. So that's when I started researching a lot of resources related to leadership. I started shadowing other great leaders. I started reading a lot of books on leadership, started listening to a lot of podcasts, and after years of research in trying to figure out how to become a great leader, I finally cracked the code, because it all boiled down to these 4 leadership traits, which I'm going to talk about today, which is going to make anyone a great leader. So here are the 4 strategies which you really need to know right now to get you to the next level. The first thing is, you really need to have effective communication, right? And when I say communication, it hits multiple factors. First thing is, you really want to and truly want to follow agile practices. So what do I mean by that? How many of you have heard that your companies are agile, but then they don't do a lot of stuff like daily stand-up meetings, retrospective meetings, planning meetings, backlog grooming meetings, team meetings, so on and so forth? Just don't use agile as a fancy word, but actually truly follow it, because that's when you involve the team, and that's when there's effective communication. So have daily stand-up meetings where you talk about what went well yesterday, what you're going to do today, what are some obstacles. Have team meetings, have retrospective meetings where you analyze what went well during the sprint and what needs to be improved, and have those meetings which encourages and fosters communication, and that's when people feel as like one unit, one team. The second thing is, invest in collaboration tools. When talking about effective communication, we talked about following agile practices, and the second thing is investing in collaboration tools. Now, this day and age where everyone is working remotely, make sure you spend some money to have good web camera, good headset, good microphones, and then make sure you use collaboration tools like Slack, then Microsoft Teams or Skype or Zoom, and make sure that is not a bottleneck for your team to work together. That is something as a leader you really want to constantly keep thinking about. Trust me, investing in collaboration tools is really going to help build high performing teams. The next thing when it comes to effective communication is encouraging socialization. So what I usually do when I'm managing my teams is I have virtual happy hours every Friday, so that people, like, they come on a Zoom meeting and then they give more insights into their life. Like, they show their dogs, their kids, we drink beer, we talk about life. And that is a setting which you really want to have, because work shouldn't always be about, okay, business, task. Sometimes you also need to get personal with your team. That's why having virtual happy hours really help. And if possible, if you're in the same vicinity and closer to your team, you could meet them in person from time to time, take them out for lunch, and encourage their communication. Another thing which I remember talking about encouraging socialization is what one of my friends does. So he's a CIO of a startup company here in the Bay Area, and every time he gets on a Zoom meeting, he asks his team 3 questions, right? First one is, he asks, how are you doing today? Second thing he asks is, what is something you're happy about today? Third thing is, what is one thing you're looking forward to this week? And he spends the first 5 to 10 minutes just talking about that with all his team members, and that really brings the human connection as well. So effective communication is the first piece you want to work on, and the things I mentioned comes under the umbrella of effective communication. The second thing you want to do is empower your teams. So I believe in empowering leadership, and that's my style of leadership, where I'm super clear on what is expected from each person. So I set goals, expectations, and deadlines, and then motivate the person, develop the person, and then let the person run the show while I'm in the background supporting them and then checking in with them and making sure they're getting all the necessary resources to perform their job better. I think that's how work should be, and that's a type of leadership which is really going to help motivate your team as well. So empowering leadership is something I'm really focused on, right? And talking about empowering teams, here are some strategies which I've followed, which have worked wonders for my team. First thing is, make sure you have one-on-one meetings with your team. It's so important, because only in a one-on-one setting, a lot of people actually open up and they talk about, okay, what are they really going through, whether they're liking their job, what are some obstacles they're facing. Those are some things you really want to focus on during your one-on-one conversations. The next thing I used to do, talking about empowering teams, is have rotating responsibilities. So every sprint, usually they're 2-week sprints, and every sprint I used to rotate responsibilities of people. So if there's a tester, I would ask him or her to be a scrum master for a sprint. And if there's a developer, I would ask him or her to be a tester for a sprint. And of course, we plan the tasks accordingly as well, because we carve out some time for the other person to shadow the actual person, to get insights into what their life looks like on a daily basis. In that way, a lot of things happen. One is, people get insights into another person's job. Second thing is, they figure out different interest areas, and they get more empathy when they see a tester doing their work, or when a tester sees a developer doing their work, or the developer sees a scrum master doing their work, right? And that is something which really helps to increase transparency and then get new ideas within the team. Another thing I used to do was peer coaching. This is the thing, folks. Say you have a team of 10 members. Instead of looking for training elsewhere, you already know that there are a lot of strengths within your own team itself. For example, a developer would be really good in Android development, and a tester would like to learn Android development. So why don't you just pair up the developer with the tester and let the tester learn from the strengths of the developer? So what I used to do was, I call it peer coaching or buddy coaching, where I'll assign people based on their interest areas with one another, and they learn from each other. This could be during lunch, this could be after work, or you carve a 1 hour time every week just for buddy coaching sessions, and that really helps to empower your team. So that's the second thing, empowering teams. The third thing to make you a great leader is effective feedback loops. Feedback is really, really important because you need to know how you're doing from a strength perspective and from improvement areas as well. So here are some ways you can set up effective feedback loops as a leader. First thing is you could give proactive feedback and reactive feedback. So what do I mean by that? Proactive feedback is when, say for example, a person is one of your direct reports is going to give a presentation in a meeting. You can proactively tell that person saying, hey, I know you like to go into data quite a bit, but in this crowd we have business folks, so talk more about the impact to the customer. So now you're proactively telling your direct report, giving him or her feedback so that they can actually act based on your feedback. So that is proactive feedback. Then you have reactive feedback. Reactive feedback is when a person does something and then you immediately give feedback. So say for example, let's take the same use case. The person gives a presentation and then he focuses a lot on data. Then you get out of the meeting and say, hey Raj, could I talk to you for a second? So take the person to a corner where there's no one else and say, first of all, great job on the presentation. It was really good. But some of the things you could improve next time is if it's an audience of business folks, then you probably want to focus more on the business impact rather than just focusing on the data, because that's what they relate to. So that is a reactive feedback. You are reacting to something which happened and then you're giving feedback. So that is something you want to keep in mind. Proactive feedback versus reactive feedback. We already talked about one-on-one meetings. That is a great way to give feedback as well. Another place where you can give feedback is have all hands meetings with all your teams, and then have open discussions about what's happening in the project, where the company is going, and then encourage questions from people. That really helps. And during retrospective meetings at the end of every sprint, use it as a venting session where you say that, for the next 1 hour, we're gonna talk about any feedback you have, and whatever you say is within these four walls and nothing goes outside. When you give that psychological safety for people, then it encourages more feedback and it helps the team to get better. Okay, so those are some things you could do from an effective feedback loop standpoint. The final thing is increasing visibility. This is the thing, folks. When you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, people do not feel motivated to do things. That's why you need to increase visibility of people's work. So what you need to do is periodically let people know how what they're doing is leading to progress in the project. And what I used to do is I used to use different tools, and there was a progress tracker, and then the progress tracker will map to the overall project goals and objectives, and then it will show through a bar graph about how each person's work is helping to contribute to the overall goal of the project, right? So there are many tools to do that. And in that way, when people visually see how their work is contributing to the project, then they're more motivated to do things. That's why, so increase visibility. Make sure everyone's work is heard, and everyone knows why they're doing what they're doing and how it aligns with the project goals. So those are some ways you can increase visibility as well. So in summary, if you want to be an effective leader, or if you want to get into leadership roles and make an impact in your organization, keep in mind that you have to follow the four things. One is have effective communication. Second is have effective feedback loops. Then empower teams, and then increase visibility. I have a blog post which you're going to see here, and when you click on it, you're going to see the 11 leadership traits which I follow on a regular basis, and that actually would be a good add-on to these 4 traits which I just talked about, and it will really give you insights into how to become the effective leader you want to be. Stay inspired, folks.